Hi everybody, this is my channel Mimi Heba. Welcome to my channel. My name is Vicky. Thank you once again for joining me and for being a part of this video. I truly appreciate your time and your energy. In my channel, as I've mentioned previously, I talk about my life experiences and I also share the insights that I've gained through my life experiences and throughout my life. And in so doing, my hope, my intention for this channel is that there'll be something here that can inspire, that can motivate, that can educate you. And I hope to create a community of like-minded people who are committed to our self-growth, including myself, our self-development, our evolution as we go through these life journeys. If that resonates with you, please feel right at home in this channel. In today's video, I was going to look into how we can transform building where we might have built walls, emotional walls, how we can transform those to become healthy boundaries so that we can have fulfilling, wholesome, healthy interactions and relationships. So the title of this video is boundaries, not walls, which essentially I wanted to compare the two to see where the differences exist, to see where we might have created walls from a place of trauma, how we can transform that, as I've mentioned, into us creating healthy boundaries, and how that can be so beneficial in our own lives and as well as in our interpersonal relationships. So to start off with, how do we create emotional walls? How do we come about creating walls, and what are they? What are emotional walls? So emotional walls are exactly what they sound. It's literally a barrier that we create, and it's as a result, or it comes from a trauma response whereby we might have at one point in life have opened up or been vulnerable, and that might have been either abused or taken advantage of, or we might have gotten hurt during our most vulnerable, or when we've opened up, or when we've been vulnerable, whether as adults or when we were young as children. And that has created a narrative or a message that it's not safe, that we are not safe in the world. And so we have created walls to protect ourselves from getting hurt further, right? So we create this wall where we keep people off. It's an emotional wall, it's an invisible wall, but it's a wall nonetheless that keeps people at bay. Especially if there's a feeling that they're getting close, or we're getting close to someone. And so that becomes the way in which we interact with other people, because we have this messaging in us that generally people are not, it's not safe to be open, it's not safe to be vulnerable, and so we create this wall that keeps people away. So I've mentioned it could have come from our childhood. A lot of the times, if we consider our childhood, our caregivers might have done this to us. Most cases it's unintentional, some cases it could be intentional. In any case, that could have come from a place of, if the family structure, there was lack of understanding of like boundaries, where our emotional needs were not understood. We can feel vulnerable, we might have felt vulnerable, we might have felt hurt, and that might have resulted in us beginning to create walls, an emotional wall that in our mind helps to protect us from getting hurt. But what that does is it keeps us away from cultivating and forming any form of a healthy relationship. So that looks at how we might have come about creating walls, emotional walls. As a result, it's a traumatic response. Emotional walls do tend to cause us not to not to live life to its fullest. We don't get to enjoy intimate, healthy, whether intimate relationships, obviously intimacy in relationships would be in a love relationship, but also in interpersonal relationships with our friends, with our family members, with professional workers. We might have created these walls or these barriers that keeps us away from really experiencing the fullness of what these relationships can do to our lives, or the richness that we can gain from having these experiences and from having these interactions with other people. Because essentially we keep people at bay. You know, we have that that response of, you know, this is as far as I'm going to let someone in. So those that could work against us in that sense, because when it comes to intimate relationships, it's very unlikely that we are going to be able to have authentic relationships. It's very unlikely that we're going to experience intimacy. And, you know, a lot of the times the hallmark of a good loving relationship is where we are vulnerable, where we feel safe to be vulnerable, where we feel that we can be ourselves and we can be celebrated for being ourselves, and we can be accepted for being who we are, for being ourselves, where we feel that we can that there's unconditional love, and that we can express our needs, we can express who we are, and it won't be criticized or it won't be used against us. So when you have such a healthy and loving relationship that thrives, that builds a very strong bond between two people, and I believe that's what, you know, it leads to a happy union. You know, you're able to celebrate each other and to experience each other in a very deep level. So when you have that trauma response, it's very unlikely that you'll be able to connect with people in that aspect or to that level, because you'll either have your guard up or you'll have your wall up. And every time there's a sign, there's a need, or there's a chance, I guess, to open up, you might clam up. You might decide, I don't want to. And this can also lead to self-sabotaging behaviors where, you know, especially in guys, we see this, where there's ghosting, when there's that transitional point where you are getting to get to know someone in a deeper level. It becomes it touches on a very raw emotional nerve that might make someone run away from wanting to open up in that sense or to that level. So it leads to very surface level relationships, whether, you know, especially in intimate and loving relationships. And, you know, and we want healthy loving relationships. So it really it can really take away from that experience when we have our walls up, when we have our guard up, right? It can really stop us, or it can really halt us, or it can really it can stop us from having that full experience of a loving relationship. So it's so important to recognize where we might have built emotional walls that are preventing us from experiencing a deep level of connection, of experiencing intimacy, and of experiencing an authentic relationship, authenticity within our relationship. So I guess I will talk about the hallmarks of boundaries. Maybe I'll start by defining what boundaries are. My thing has gone off. That's all right. My laptop has gone off. I might have clicked on something. Anyway, a boundary helps people. When we have healthy boundaries, they help create a separatedness of where we end and where someone else begins. You know, when you don't have healthy boundaries, there's an enmeshment of all kinds, so that, you know, there's a lot of fluidity within whatever kind of a relationship it is. I find this typically to happen within family structures, within our nuclear families, where sometimes there might not have been healthy boundaries that were created when we were young. And so that could be problematic, especially when we go into our adult lives and we are now, you know, we are separate individuals so having boundaries lets us know who we are, where we end, and then can also give us the opportunity to know where someone else starts. Otherwise, when there's that lack of understanding, then we can tend to step on each other's toes, to offend other people, and to feel that we're not seen and we're not recognized and we're not heard for who we truly are. So healthy boundaries are so important. They're so vital. They're important in our romantic relationships. They're very important in our work or professional relationships. And they certainly are important in family structures or in our family relationships as well. And a lot of the times, especially within family relationships and any other relationship, and friends as well, where we find these conflict is because the boundaries might have been crossed. Where we have our boundaries might not have been respected, and that can be a cause of conflict, because we do feel when our boundaries are crossed, we feel disrespected. But before I get to that, let me talk about the hallmarks of healthy boundaries. So the first thing is knowing how to constructively say no to another person's request. This might sound easier said than done, especially if you come from a place where your needs weren't met or weren't heard, and so you tended to meet someone else's needs. You feel a sense of guilt in saying no to someone, even when whatever activity you're being asked to do is dishonoring you or is infringing on you or is an inconvenience to you. So building a practice of being able, this is part of self-care, of constructively being the key word, constructively being able to say no. So what that means is respectfully saying, I'll decline the offer. This might not be a good time for me. This might not be the right fit for me. Whatever it is, constructively being able to say no is one of the hallmarks of having healthy boundaries for yourself. The second one is communicating your needs. And, this is again, communication is so important. For me, I think communication is so important in all aspects of our lives. And great communication begins from ourselves, from knowing ourselves. When we know who we are, when we know what we want, we can be able to communicate that to others. I will get to how we can create healthy boundaries, but I'm touching on it right now by stating that one of the other hallmarks of having healthy boundaries is having that ability to communicate our needs, and thirdly, communicating behavior that you won't accept is also such a key aspect of having healthy boundaries. And the difference here between this and having emotional walls is healthy boundaries come from a place of having that security of knowing yourself and having that confidence of asserting who you are, of being confident of who you are. And walls come from a place of fear, from a place of not really wanting to disappoint other people. But so then you might find that you'll compromise at times when you wanted to say no. You find that you're saying yes because you don't want to offend the other person, to make the other person feel bad. So that could be an example of having an emotional wall. And what that does is it builds resentment after, you'll go complaining to someone else. So that can be avoided by you being able to communicate effectively, or when something is not to your liking. And again, the key word here being respectfully doing it. It doesn't have to be in a disrespectful manner, but saying no is quite okay. It's fine to say no to someone else's request if it pertains to you giving of your time, of your energy. You are allowed to say, to decline an offer if you feel it's not the right fit for you, whatever it might be. It could be a job offer, it could be you being asked to come in on like a day off or to work extra. If it's not honoring you, if it's not to the best of you, if it's going to take away from your well-being, then it's in your best interest that you decline the offer, because you have to begin by honoring yourself. You have to begin by, by taking care of yourself, even as you strive to be part of a team and to help and assist others. But being able to have those healthy boundaries allows people to know, not to overstep their boundaries, or not to overstep your boundaries, because you communicate effectively what is acceptable for you, what is not acceptable, and you're able to express your needs, to communicate effectively what your needs are, and to communicate no respectfully when the need comes up. So maybe, you've grown up in a home, or in the past you've not honored yourself by having healthy boundaries. You've had emotional walls instead. How do you switch from going from having emotional walls to having healthy boundaries? I myself have made that switch. I used to have emotional walls, and little by little, taking small steps that honor me and, changing the habits has really helped me begin to honor myself, and to the point now where it's become second nature, that I've now been able to create very healthy boundaries. And that means that at the first time, a lot of times when there's change, people don't like it. It might not be received well, but hang in there and always be respectful. Either people will leave, and those who leave were never meant to be part of, that's how I see it, to be part of your journey moving forward, or they come and they come back in a dynamic that then aligns with you where you're at, where they honor your boundaries, and likewise you honor their boundaries, because it goes both ways. It's not just about them honoring your boundaries. We also have to, part of self-care is also honoring other people's boundaries and respecting their boundaries as well. So one of the ways you can make that switch from having emotional walls to having healthy boundaries is to discover what your needs and your values are. Know yourself, know yourself, know yourself, know yourself. I can't repeat this enough. It seems obvious, but a lot of the times we don't know what our values are. We don't know what our needs are. I think these pointers would work so well, especially in the dating world and especially in online dating. Know what you are looking for. Be very clear about what you're looking for. Be very clear about what your needs are. And by needs I mean, know what works for you. What works for me could be completely different to what works for someone else. And part of honoring who we are and creating those healthy boundaries is knowing, and being comfortable and being confident in understanding that these are my needs, and I'm going to honor these needs because they help me be a better person. I'm not going to compromise on these. So discover what your needs and your values are. So this is a process of understanding, of spending time with you, of understanding your emotions and understanding your feelings, because your emotions and your feelings are communicating to you who you are, what your values are, what your needs are constantly. There's that communication that takes place. So don't be numb to your emotions and don't be numb to your feelings there. We have them for a purpose. They're here for a reason. Hear them out, give them the space they deserve, and see them work to your advantage. See them show you, reveal to you who you truly are, and from there you can be able to find out what your needs are, what your values are, and you can be able to then honor that. If you don't know what your values are and what your needs are, you're going to settle for anything that comes your way. So this is a first important key of having healthy boundaries. Second one is communicating your boundaries at an early stage. This, you've got to set the stage. You know, I don't know how many times, like, I've seen examples of people who change the goalposts mid a relationship, whether it be professionally or it be romantically or it be friendship wise. Being able to communicate what your boundaries are, and also asking the other person what their boundaries are right at the beginning, it really makes sure that you're all on the same page, so that if someone does something that dishonors you, it can't come from a place of, oh well, I did not know, right? So if someone does that, that's step number 3. You can be able to then be able to take action based on how they are honoring your boundaries as you've communicated to them. But if you've not communicated your boundaries at an early stage, a lot of the times that gets dishonored, and it's not because the person is being disrespectful or not wanting to intentionally doing it. It's purely coming from a place of them not understanding exactly what your boundaries are. So, and this, when we do this to others, we set the stage for how people are going to treat us, and we also then begin to create relationship dynamics that are healthy. So all this begins with yourself. You've got to do that work within, and be able to know yourself, be able to communicate, to understand what your boundaries are and what to do when those boundaries are crossed. And sometimes we might not be clear about those boundaries, what it means. Some of them we might be very aware of. If this boundary is crossed, this is exactly the action I'll take. But sometimes we're not very sure of what that will look like. And it's in this time that, again, I go back to honor your feelings, honor your emotions. A lot of the times when we feel disrespected, we'll know when our boundaries are being crossed. We will feel it, and what we might sometimes do is we might feel guilty about feeling that, and we shut down those emotions and we shut down those feelings. I would say that you take a different approach and you sit with those emotions and sit with those feelings, and then begin to now say, okay, when this person did this, it made me feel this way. Is this something I want to feel again? No. So this is the steps I need to take now, because you could be that you go communicate to the person, or you cut ties if it's to that level. It could be a whole spectrum of actions that you can take. But basically, when you listen to your feelings and when you listen to your emotions, you can be able to know when your boundaries have been crossed and what action you can be able to take moving forward. Honor your feelings, honor your emotions, and honor your feelings, because they give you so much information about yourself. And through that information, you can be able to lead a life that is in true alignment of yourself, that honors you, that you're not compromising, and so you don't go into victim mode where you think that all these things are happening to me. You take back the power into your own hands. You understand that you're on the driver's seat and that you can take action, at any time that supports you. The final one is get comfortable with saying no. This was one of the hallmarks of setting healthy boundaries. This one, what I found, I was not one who was, I call what I would call an imposter syndrome of saying no. I just didn't feel comfortable saying no. I used to feel bad saying no. Now I don't even bat an eyelid if it's something that is dishonoring me, if it's something that is not going to help me, that it won't be for my good. It's in my best interest and in the other person's best interest that I turn down whatever the offer is. Because by me saying no, what I'm saying is I'm only wanting to give the best of myself. So when I say yes, it's a resounding yes. It's not a yes that's shifty. So when I say no, it's because I can't give what I would want to and what would be required of me to give. And so it's best for me to honor both parties, myself as well as the other person, by turning down the offer, by saying no. You get over feeling bad. I don't feel bad anymore saying no, because I've seen how much of a positive impact honoring myself by learning to say no when something is not honoring me, and therefore not honoring, the whole situation at hand, what that does. And so I've seen the benefits of saying no. And the feeling bad was just part of conditioning that came from probably my childhood, that that I've now overcome and healed. So on that note, I will leave this video here. So yeah, just a bit of a recap. I was just talking, or rather I was delving into us building healthy boundaries compared to having emotional walls that can stop us from having authentic relationships. So I hope this can encourage you or motivate you to begin to take those steps towards building healthy boundaries within your life, so that as you engage with other people, you're able to have a wholesome and healthy relationships. With that, I do want to wish you so much love and light. Take good care of yourself. If you have anything to comment and you are comfortable sharing, I would definitely love to hear from you. So comment on the section below. Otherwise, until next time, it's bye for now.